everybody, and welcome to Malibu Pacific Church Podcast. Hey, if you haven't listened to this past week's sermon yet, I would say go back and listen to that sermon so that this podcast makes a little more sense. But again, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. It's me, Joel, and we got...
Andy.
Hey,
everybody. Good morning.
Good
afternoon. Whenever
night.
you're listening.
Whenever you're listening. Sunday
This
through
could help
Saturday.
you fall asleep.
Yes. Hello. Have a really good night.
This will help you fall asleep.
It will help you fall asleep. No,
anytime you're listening.
Very exciting stuff here. Hey, man, we are on session 3 of The Good Life.
That's right.
Absolutely. Are you having a good life right now?
I'm having a great life.
Hey,
Yes.
that's even better
A
than
great
good.
life.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was one of your highlights of this last week? Makes it a good
Well,
life.
watching our little grandbaby Olivia and watching her grow up. And anyway, she's such a cutie.
That's
and it's just
amazing.
fun. Yeah.
Okay,
I never thought I'd enjoy it so much. But what they say is true.
Yeah.
You get to spoil them and then you leave.
And then you leave. Yeah. You don't have to
It
take
is
them home.
true. You don't have to take them home. It's true.
Yeah.
So we are enjoying it. And I know a lot of people may be saying, you're too young to have a grandbaby. You're right. Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
It was
right
wild
now.
that you had kids when you were 12.
It was unbelievable. Yeah.
But that's what they do, in South America.
She's 20 months and growing like crazy. And
Amazing.
the amount of change from 0 to 20 months even is just unbelievable. So anyway, huge highlight. Loving every minute of it. Just great.
I love it. All right, so we were in session 3, and before the sermon even started, we had a special song was going on, and it was called Good Life.
Good life.
Good Life.
That's right.
Yeah, so how did that fit in with the whole sermon?
Well, I think the words of the song saying good life actually fit in with the series, The Good Life. Yeah, people had a hard time connecting the dots.
I know, it seemed like when you were like, do you understand? And
What?
round of applause. Well, I guess that
Everybody
makes
was
sense.
just staring at me.
It's called Good Life, and we're doing a series called Good Life.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess it's a stretch, but
We made it work.
we made it work.
We made it work.
Absolutely.
Great tune. And
Great tune.
Jaden, if you hadn't heard his music, I don't know, catch it where? Spotify, Lavik, Lavik,
Yes.
Jaden.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how many albums he has. Do you know? You've known him longer than me.
Yeah, I don't want to say too many or too little. I would say probably around 5.
Yeah.
He has an amazing Christmas album. He has a hymns album.
Oh,
He has.
I love his hymns album.
Hymns album is awesome.
Yeah.
You got to check that out. That was the first time I heard him, and definitely borrowed a lot of his arrangements. Through the
It's
years.
really unbelievable. Yeah, really great. So he was able to pull that song off, "The Good Life," and so anyway, he just has an incredible voice, great worship leader. So listen in, watch it online, and just catch that tune. But he was just great.
Absolutely. And you can find all those songs on our YouTube page or on the church website as well, malibupacific.church/music, or go to YouTube at Malibu Pacific Church, and you can click through all the songs and listen to them wherever you want.
Nice.
Very cool. Okay, so we were talking about rules and relationships.
Yeah.
Yes, if there was one thing people could walk away with.
Well, there's a relationship before the rules. Rules assumes there is a relationship.
Ooh.
And I know that is a hiccup for a lot of people, at least going to church, going back to church where they've been hurt, because it says submit. And we've been talking, the good life is a surrendered life.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when people go to church, it's like, you need to surrender to our rules, submit to our rules, do what we tell you to do. But that is not how Jesus ever approached any interaction. He never went up to somebody, okay, you need to follow the 10 commandments before you start following me. He went up to Matthew and said, come follow me, and we'll figure it out together. So and we'll get into it here, but rules assumes that there's a relationship. You give rules to people you have a relationship with. You don't just have a blanket set of rules. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah. Actually, the result of that is rebellion.
Ooh.
Rules without a relationship equals rebellion. So anyway, I just wanted us to tackle that one, because every week we're saying, do what God tells you to do. Well, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, that's pretty much the theme here for the whole time. It's personal. Yeah. From the Old Testament all the way to New Testament.
It's personal. And that's how you have that good life, not just the strained life that people think you have if you're a Christian.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, but isn't it just about rules? Isn't it just about earning God's love? Isn't it just, and it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, no. Rules come after the relationship.
Well, change doesn't come when you force it on somebody, ever. We need to want to do things. So when you believe somebody has your best interests in mind and they build a relationship and they get to know you and they invest in you,
Yeah.
you start following them. You start listening to them wherever it is in your life. It's a great leadership lesson as well. John Maxwell, 5 levels of leadership. So positional leadership is the first one. Just do what I tell you to do. The leadership 2, 3, 4, and 5 is all about relationships. So very quickly move into relationships. But God knows that about us. He created us. And so God wants us to live the good life, to bring about the good change in us, and just say, just do this. That doesn't elicit change in anybody, forced change. It doesn't last long.
So you're saying the person that's down at the Santa Monica Pier yelling at people walking by with a sign saying they're going to hell doesn't work, Andy? I need to know this.
I've heard stories of some people started following Jesus, but it's pretty rare. Yeah, it's pretty rare. Exactly. So
yeah,
I know.
It's one of my favorite stories. I used to live like literally next door to the Santa Monica Pier, and I worked at St. John's Presbyterian Church as a youth pastor at that time. And one of those guys came up to me and literally just goes, "You're going to hell." And I was like,
really?
I was like,
what?
I said,
I don't even know you. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a youth pastor. Well, I know. I'm so sorry. And they're like, oh, you are? Oh, no, we're on same
Guess
page.
you're not. Yeah.
Same page, man. Me and you, same page. We're going to heaven. And I'm like, oh. And I just was like, well, why attack with that? Like, did Jesus like immediately?
Never did.
He's like, hey, Matthew, come here.
You're going to hell.
You're going to hell.
Yeah.
Follow me.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't. Where
good.
where do you think that like came from inside of this tension of Christian culture?
I don't know, and that's why I tried to bring up the Old Testament with the Exodus and the 10 Commandments. Even Exodus 19, go one chapter back if you weren't here on Sunday. God is asking the people, do you want to be my people? And they're like, yeah, we do. And then, okay, this is how we're going to have a relationship. This is how it's going to work. This is what healthy relationships looks like. So even in the Old Testament, I was going to say, this guy's like thinking Old Testament prophets, like you're all, Jonah, you're all going to Nineveh, you're all going to hell.
Totally.
And so that wasn't even the character of God in the Old Testament. So you can't claim Old Testament that this is the way God was and something changed. No, the character of God is consistent. I am the Lord, your God. I am the one who saved you. I love you. You are my people. So here's the rules on how this is going to work. This is what healthy relationships look like. You can't have any other gods. I'm not going to share you with another idol.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I think is important for all of us to understand. There's got to be a relationship. And even from the very beginning, this guy is missing. I don't know. Where did it come from? I don't know.
I know. Where did it come from? In my mind, what I've thought is the fear of the Lord. Like I think there's like these different types of fear, and so like humanity wants to strike fear into people with God. Because like using God's name. But I think there's like more of like a reverent fear, of the Lord, where it's like
it's a submission, surrender kind of fear. You're God and I'm not.
Yes.
Versus I'm afraid, like it's a ghost or something. I'm afraid or something.
Like a Scooby-Doo cop. Kind of thing. But I've had so many friends also be like, when I die, I'm going to go straight to God and ask all these questions. I'm like, man, when I die and I'm not sitting at the feet of God, does it matter? I'm going to be bowing.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, thank you. Just all like.
Read Revelations 4. When we go to heaven, it gives a picture. It's awesome. The glory of God. You're on your knees.
Yeah.
It's majestic. It's glorious. You're on your knees. Like he's God.
Gotcha.
The power of God is represented there. So anyway, I don't know where it comes from. It's too bad trying to scare people into heaven. It doesn't work, never has. I think throughout the history of the church, we have done that. So when we've been institutionalized, we have tried to codify, we've tried to put God in a box or control people, then Yeah, the rules happen throughout the history of the Church of Jesus Christ, through the medieval times, through the Renaissance, and so forth. So, yeah, we're making rules to find out who's in and who's out for those who are in power.
Gotcha.
But that isn't the message of Jesus Christ. And I think now and then there's churches out there that self-correct. Is that a word? They self-correct and go, wait a second, that's not the gospel.
Ooh.
And that's not the message of Jesus. And so he gave us, I tried to communicate that at the end. I said it 2-3 times. I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but I was just simply trying to say the rules are a result of being in a relationship, and God's giving those to us so that we can live the better life, because that's our manual. This is how it works. And so God doesn't want his children to hurt and experience pain. He wants us to live the good life. This is how to get it. Not to get into a relationship with God, but God gave us those principles to apply them to our lives so we can live the best possible life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know, keep asking questions, but I don't know if that's clear, or for some reason we've missed that.
Well, we did have one question, and it has some politic in it, but it doesn't get specific. So it's the
now I can't wait to hear
you
this.
ready for this? All right,
Joel really built that one up.
here we go. When Christians try and put rules into states or national law, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's good. Like, I made a comment, I think at the first service, of if people don't believe, then why in the world are we imposing our rules and laws on them? But I think it's good to have their principles.
Yeah.
I think it's good for us to have Christian politicians who are then implementing godly principles without saying, well, you have to do this and in the name of Jesus, or if you don't, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Or this is what everybody else should do. I believe even non-Christians, let me answer it this way and then push back. For example, counselors who don't even believe in God, who are atheists, using, I would say, the biblical principles on how to have healthy relationships, but they would never give credit to God on that. You see, truth is not just for Christians.
Oh, there it is.
Truth is for everybody.
Yep.
Gravity works for everybody.
That's
so
very
whether
true.
you believe in God or not, there's a thing called gravity. So
Yeah.
there is truth out there. And so it's not like, oh, I'm imposing. This is just common sense. This makes better sense. I think even non-Christians would go, yeah, I tried that. That didn't work.
Yeah.
My fifth marriage here,
Totally.
Literally, I'm not joking. I've had people come up to me and say, yeah, I've had 5 marriages.
Ooh.
Well, have you tried it God's way? Yeah, I think I'm in church now. Maybe the 6th one will work. And let me try it different. So what is it? The definition of insanity is to do something over and over.
Absolutely.
Same
Albert
way.
Einstein. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And expecting different results. So
Yep.
I believe as Christians in politics, we can have influence in the culture without saying, or without the fear, or you need to follow these rules. There are principles that work. And even non-Christians go, yeah, that makes sense. I think there's enough common sense and truth in just people, even if they're atheists. When they're watching, we are the light of the world as Christians. They go, oh, that's working. Well, that's what brought Rome down with the Christians. They watch, I said that in the sermon.
Yeah.
They weren't politicians in Rome, but the way they lived their lives impacted the Romans.
Absolutely.
Wow. Look at how they're raising their kids. Look at how the husbands, wives treat each other. Wow. Look at how they love one another. Look at how they love their enemies.
Yeah.
Wow. They seem to have a peace about them, and they're not worried about death.
Yeah.
So when we live our lives and we're a light to the world, even non-Christians, I think we can do that without forcing people to follow our rules.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if that answers that. You can push back a little bit.
Totally does.
Yeah.
It actually brings us to our second question. We got 2 questions.
Oh,
so this
great.
one's, what about, because you were talking about rules without a relationship results in a rebellion.
Yeah.
But what about people who are in a relationship and they're still a rebellion? And the person was like teenagers.
Welcome to all of us. That's why the surrender all is so difficult. The second I'm like, okay, I surrendered this to Jesus. Now I have this other area.
Yeah.
Jesus keeps digging and showing me another area in my life I need to surrender. That's the journey.
Yeah.
That's why last week I think is so important, because there are different steps and we take steps in different areas of our lives. So, you know, if you grow up listening or hearing in the church, like a lot of Baptists out there, if you don't surrender all, you haven't surrendered at all. That's a false statement. That's not true. Because I surrender to Jesus doesn't mean, and I haven't surrendered everything. There's even areas in my life I don't even know about yet that I haven't surrendered, that God's going, we're going to work on that next week, you know? So, no, that's the journey.
Yeah.
So does it mean we haven't surrendered everything? Was that kind of the question, or does that?
It was more to do with like teenagers and and relationships, because there's already been 13 years, 12 years of solid relationship with a parent, and no matter what, there's always going to be some type of rebellion. I think it was more of a question of, is rebellion, and I think you're answering it right here too, of just like, that rebellion is actually God going in there and saying like, hey, you need to work on this thing because you're obviously struggling, and you're trying to find the right way of doing things.
I need to hear more details around that question. Would love to talk to you, because taking it from a human growth and development, and you're a high school leader and pastor, and you've worked in youth ministry for years. This is Dr. Donald Joy here, and many others, that maybe Freud as well. The teenage years are a return to the terrible twos.
Love it.
So the terrible twos, the reason our granddaughter's getting there, she's very good. No.
Same with Paxton.
No,
it's happening.
What they are doing at that point, we're like, they're rebellious. No, they're starting to cut the umbilical cord from the parents up to age 2. And counselors, psychologists, please respond to this, please. My understanding from human growth and development, a child from 0 to 2, give or take, they see their world through their mother and their father's eyes. They see themselves as one with them. At the age of 2, they are beginning to become their own people. So what their no, or what we would say is rebellious, is saying, I want to be my own person. I'm making my own choices. So that is what's happening there. And then they become kind of nice, and my girls were super nice, and then all of a sudden the teenage years came. They were just the sweetest things. And then all of a sudden my girls became, what is happening? Well, and my son too, they're getting ready to leave the nest. And they're getting ready to say, I want to live my own life. And it is a return of the terrible twos. The teenagers are saying, I'm trying to be autonomous, independent. In a sense, leave me alone. So it's a dicey road there as far as parenting teenagers. And that's why I wanted to get a little bit more behind that question. Was that rebellion? Yeah, but it's also like a bird, getting ready to leave the nest.
Totally it is.
And I'm going to go get my own food. They're trying to be autonomous.
They are.
Also. So teenage years is a tough time.
Absolutely. I think
and they're trying to find their own purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
Junior high ministry is all about one thing, fun. Because their brains are not there. And the talks we do with junior hires are really simple. God loves you.
What?
Well, I hope they hear that. And just church is fun. You're trying to do word association with junior hires. Church is fun. God is good, And that's all they can remember, because their bodies are changing like crazy. But that is when they make their faith their own. High schoolers are much more sophisticated. They're getting ready to leave. They're trying to leave the nest. They want to know what their purpose in life is. So they're much more, I don't need the fun. I don't need the junior high games. I don't need the rah. I need somebody to have a conversation with. So they're much more sophisticated. They're much more philosophical. So, and at that point, they are also, there's one more thing happening. Sorry, I didn't realize we were going to get into this. You got me going. They're also trying to initiate themselves into adulthood. And so that's why teenagers join gangs or groups or find their tribe.
Yeah.
The problem is a teenager cannot initiate another teenager. It needs to be done by an older man or an older woman that they initiate, and they say, you have what it takes.
Yes.
So part of the rebellion also is trying to initiate myself into adulthood.
Yeah.
And you just hope and pray to God that a teenager doesn't do too much damage that it costs them for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
Hopefully the mistakes they make are very minimal, but they
Yeah.
will make some, but they're trying to initiate themselves. That's why it is so, so important to have high schoolers in a small group with another adult speaking into their lives, because that adult is actually initiating them into adulthood.
Absolutely.
So
Youth group's important.
it's extremely important.
Yes.
Yeah. So the rebellious, I hear you. Yeah. In the middle of all of that is sin also. They are rebelling or not listening to the rules.
Yeah. It was just one of those. It was a fun kind of comment question. But all right. So towards the very end, you're in Psalm. But before then,
119,
before then, you said rules are to protect our freedom, not take it away.
Yeah.
Where do you think that spin has happened with a non-believer or someone who's been hurt at a church? So as a believer at one point, walked away from the faith because this is kind of more like I've heard from friends who don't attend church anymore. There's just too many rules.
Oh, that's why I addressed it.
Yeah.
Well, that goes back to if you do them, you're accepted. If not, and I think a lot of people have been shamed, especially somebody raise their hand. Any Catholics out there know about the rules? Oh yeah, she raised her hand real quick. I know all about that, and left the Catholic Church 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So where does that come from, or why do we do that? Or
why do you think that's the take of like the church today? That we are just here to impose rules.
Well, again, it's a club model versus a family model. The club model. So if churches are clubs, which a lot of them are, I'm a member of that church, therefore I have rights, and you're supposed to serve me. Club model. Church model is the family of God. You're in no matter what. Whether you break the rules or not, kind of like my dog, Sage. She's still my dog. Not because she followed the rules. She was always breaking the rules. She's still my dog because she's mine. She belongs to us.
For sure.
Not because of her behavior, but because of who she is. So the problem in churches is if you have a club model, it's if you follow our rules, you're in. If you don't follow the rules, you're out.
Yeah.
And the greatest pain we can experience is rejection.
Yeah.
So it's like, I didn't follow the rules. They kicked me out of the church, or I didn't belong anymore. And I was kicked out of church or didn't feel welcome anymore. That is the greatest pain somebody can experience, is I can't get into the presence of God because I didn't follow the rules.
Yeah.
And that church has a club model.
Yeah. So here at MPC, you can sign up for our club model. It's only
Or the
$39.95. I'm
Yeah.
totally kidding. No, I think that's been a really big thing that you've been emphasizing since you started in your tenure here as the lead pastor, is that it's the family model. Like, you are welcomed here. This is a church for everybody and
That's
every
right.
story. Every single person is welcome here.
And we say you can belong before you believe. That's
Absolutely.
Then hopefully that makes sense to people.
Yeah.
Not if you believe in the right things, then you can belong. We've switched that around. You can belong before following any rules.
I just wanted to go back just a second about your dog Sage. To me, that was a moment shared this with you yesterday, or long time ago, whenever you're listening. But just what you said about Sage and what you said again right now is that even though Sage left, it's like, that's still my dog. Like, that's still, and I think everybody on the bus and everybody in the room and watching online was like, oh my gosh, I walked away from God at some point, or I've had questions, but God still has me. And, God still calls me beloved. God still calls me good.
That's
God
good.
still, and I think that was one of those moments that was just that perfect, I don't know, it's just the perfect imagery to really help people understand that Like you even made the joke that, somebody brought your dog back. Like, that's not my dog. She left. She left. She is no longer a Vomsieg. I mean, give me the collar, put it in the fire.
Still my dog, all the way to the end. Yeah.
All the way to the end.
And not based on the rules or whether she followed the rules, which she did not. She was she had a mind of her own. I just thought that dog, that beagle, is a lot like human beings. I was a little frustrated with it for 16 years, but it's like, this is a perfect gift for me or for all of us as a reminder. I'm a lot like this dog.
Ooh.
My nose is determining where I go in this life, and I do my own thing, and I don't listen to God, and I'm always hunting for something else, and I'm not listening. So anyway, just kind of a stubborn. I just thought, that's us. That's me. That's us human beings.
That's us. Yeah, absolutely.
It was just a great reminder every day. That's me right there. And I need to surrender to God. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you ran into a Catholic church and messed up their Eucharist?
Oh my gosh. It was so embarrassing. I know. And I knew the priest, and I called him and I apologized. It's no big deal. It's just funny. He said, everybody in the audience seemed to know that it was your dog. Everybody knew Sage belonged to us. I don't know how the whole neighborhood knew that.
Oh, I love that.
Well, we walked that dog all over the place. I think Beagle's supposed to live 13, 14 years. She lived to 16 years. We walked her about 4 or 5 miles every day.
Nice.
And fed her well. So we're like, when is she going to die? The kids were gone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So she lived a long, good life, 16 years. And everybody in the neighborhood knew about her just because I think we walked her everywhere. They saw her with us.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a good life moment right there. Walking Sage and having those 16 years. And we want to hear about some of your good life moments, listener. If you want to send in some highlights of what's going on in your life that we could just be celebrating with you, or if you need prayer or anything like that as well, please send those in to us. And we want to celebrate life with you. And we also want to do life with you. This is a family model, not a club model whatsoever here at Malibu Pacific Church. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button to this podcast yet, please hit that subscribe button and share this podcast with somebody who needs to hear it. And also share the sermon from this past week. It only takes one text to change and transform a life for somebody to come and find their next steps here at MPC. So with that said, thank you so much for listening to the Malibu Pacific Church podcast, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Take care.